Let's take a quick look at Google Drive. You might find that when you get to your Google Drive, it looks just a little bit different than mine, and that's perfectly fine. A lot of this comes to user preference. There's a lot of different places you can go to navigate things and make changes and search for things. I'm going to highlight a few of those. Your first notice over to the left-hand side, I have my left-hand navigation pane. And what this does is this allows me quick access to creating new items to put into my Google Drive and to also have kind of a drop-down menu of all the folders that I have in my own drive. I can also see the documents that have been shared with me. So if other people want me or have invited me to collaborate in a document, I would click here and I would get access to documents that have been shared with me by others. I can also click on a recent if I want to see some recent documents I've been working on, which is really kind of nice because eventually you'll have quite a few docs in your Google Docs, and so you're going to want to make sure that you have, some way to quickly access them. You can also star documents that you think are important or that you need to come back to frequently, and this will kind of pare down that list of items or documents you might have in your Google Drive. And then you have your trash. In case you've accidentally deleted something or gotten rid of it and you need it back, you can go there and put it back in your drive. So this is kind of where your left-hand navigation pane takes you. You also have this arrow, drop-down arrow here, which does a lot of the most similar functions to what you found over here. So either one of these will work for editing, adding, accessing, so on and so forth. The only thing this part won't do is it won't show you all the list of your folders. In this middle section here, you can see I have a grid view of all my folders as well as an endless list of docs. And this can go back quite far, as you can see, depending on how many docs you have stored in your drive. If you don't like the grid view, you can click here to change to a list view, which is perfectly fine too, whatever makes the most sense for you. You do have some sort options. So if you want to sort how you're viewing your drive by the name of documents, by when it was last modified at all, by when it was last modified by you, or when it was last opened by you. So you have the option to kind of change this so that all these documents pop up in the order in which makes most sense for you. The other thing that's pretty nice is I can click on View Details, and I can do this within folders or for my drive, and I can see the activity that's happened. As you can see, I have a lot of shared resources in my Google Drive, and I can see that several people have been making some edits to these documents. This is great for a teacher, or if you're sharing documents with your colleagues, and if you want to take a quick check at what has been edited or changed since you last accessed or changed or edited something on your own. You can also click here to adjust any of the settings that you have in your doc, or your Google Drive, and manage apps, which is something that we will talk about in one of the later modules. Your next area is this here, is your navigation pane or your search pane, and from here I can search for the name of a doc. All I need to do really is start typing. So let's say I started typing ELA, and it will start to populate a list of documents that contain that name ELA, and I could click on one, or I could continue typing if I had more information. I can also filter some of my search options by file type. So if I wanted to look for folders, documents, spreadsheets, and so on and so forth. So I can do some filtering as well as when I'm searching. The one thing I will say about Google Drive is as you start to put documents and folders together, make sure you have some sort of naming conventions that you can remember. If I look through here, I have a lot of documents. They all start to look the same and sound the same. For instance, right here, I have a doc called apps. I may not even know what this means at this point or what I'm looking for. So a more specified naming convention would probably help me find this doc quicker. And that will help you also when you're completing searches. You also have some other areas up here that you can work with. This grid gives you access to the full Google Suite. So you can get into Docs, Google Sites, calendars, sheets and slides, and even more. We're not going to get into these during this blended learning course, but I wanted to let you know that they're here in case you need to access them. And one other thing that I might suggest doing is once you're in your Google Drive, I would suggest bookmarking this page. You can see in my bookmarks, I already have it bookmarked right here. So when I need to access it, I can just click on it and quickly get to my Google Drive. For this week's task, one of the things you're going to ask to do is start looking at how you can organize your Google Drive, especially if it's not in folders. So one of the things you might want to start doing is creating some new folders or uploading some content you already have. The next thing you might want to start thinking about is how am I going to name these things so that I remember or I quickly can find the information. For instance, I know that looking at this folder that all of my English 9 content is right here. So I probably wouldn't go looking in CIC or in department for that content. But I also want to make sure that's very specific so I don't get confused by some of my other folders. A couple of things you'll also notice is that some of these folders have little, I guess, people in them. That's telling me that that folder is shared with others. Keep in mind that if you are sharing a folder, so if I'm sharing this high school ELA folder with others, that here are the list of people up here that have the ability to access and view that folder. So anything I put in or take out is also being put in or taken out for other people. So keep that in mind with shared folders. If you have content you don't want others to see or use, then make sure it's not shared. And there's some actions you can do once you're in a folder. You can open with some other apps if you want to. If you wanted to move folders around, you could do that. Again, add stars. You can also change colors of folders. And you can see I right now do not have a lot of colors associated with my Google Drive folders, and it probably would be really helpful if I did. If you're a visual person, one of the changes you can make this week in getting organized in Google Drive is think about adding some colors to your folders. You can also rename folders at any time. So if you feel like, you know what, I'm not going to remember that what's in there, or that name doesn't really make sense anymore, feel free to name those folders so they do. But if you are renaming something in a shared folder, understand that it's going to rename that for every single person that is associated with that. If it's my own personal folder, you can see it doesn't have a little shared icon by it. If I click and open it, I can decide to share this with others. And we're going to talk more about sharing later on, but I do have that ability to share my folders, and then I have the same actions that I did before. So one of the things I'm going to encourage you to do for this week is get into Google Drive, play around a little bit, and definitely do some organization. Create some folders, add some color to some folders, consider if you want to venture out and try sharing a folder. If you already have a bunch of documents in your drive, so for instance, if I go down here, I already have all these documents. These documents are not in folders. I might consider moving these documents into folders for quick access. So if you have any questions about organizing your drive after playing around with a little bit, feel free to ask some of the other participants or send me an email or a message via Schoology and we can make sure to answer those questions.